Okay, in this video I want to show you some examples on page 215 and 216 of your textbook. Um, Chapter 7 is the emphasis for week 3. There's a little bit that we'll do in Chapter 8, but I want to make sure you at least understand how to calculate the present value or price of a bond, calculate the yield to maturity or rate on a bond, and also the current value on a bond, or the current yield of a bond. Just to start off, one little thing I want to point out, I've already got some information set up comparable to what's in the textbook on page 215 and 216 with the examples I'm going to go over. But if you're in Excel, if you ever hit the function Control and tilde, which is right above the tab sign, it will show you what formulas you have in your Excel spreadsheet. And again, if I hit Control and tilde, which is above the tab, it just goes back to a normal looking mode. So it's kind of a fast way to get to the formulas to see what you have in there. Well, the first one I'm going to do is the present value of a price of a bond. This is with the example on page 215 with the Toyota bond example. But we're told that current investors require a 3.6% rate of return. This has 5 years left till maturity. It pays annual interest payments of $43.50, and that's found by taking $1,000 times the 0.0435. That's the rate that was originally quoted on the coupon rate of the bond. And our future value is always going to be $1,000 for our bond problems. It's the par value, it's the future value. It's assumed that when it matures, you're going to get your $1,000 back. So finding out the price of a bond, really what we're doing is we're discounting back a series of cash flows for the number of time periods. You know, you're going to get $43.50 1 year from now. What is that worth today? You're going to get $43.50 2 years from now. What is that worth today? And so forth until the last year you get your $1,000 back and the $43.50. So your cash flow in that last time period is going to be $1,043.50. Well, we can use the present value function to discount back all those cash flows. So we'll go up to f of x. And under financial, you're going to find present value. So if you just type in a P, it gets us pretty close. And here's present value, so I'm going to hit OK. And so since I already have all the data here, I'm just going to click on the cells as they come up. So first it says for the rate, that's the current interest rate that investors could get with similar risk right now. And that's 0.036%. So comparing that to right now, the coupon rate was actually greater than the current interest rate, so this bond will sell at a premium. That means it will sell at above $1,000. Number of periods has 5 years left till it matures. The payment, as we said, is the coupon rate times that $1,000, so $43.50. And finally, the future value will always be $1,000. And if we hit OK, we can see that we match up to the textbook. We have the price you'd be willing to pay for this bond is $1,033.77. So again, this bond is selling at a premium. It's selling at a price above the $1,000. So if you were to sell it, you'd actually have a capital gain on this if you had bought it at the $1,000. Let's see what happens when we have semi-annual payments. This is the same example, but reality is most corporate bonds don't pay interest annually. They pay it semi-annually. That means that every 6 months you would receive interest. And what they do is they take the coupon payment and divide that by 2. So that happens twice a year. So for example, in our payment here, you know, I've taken the formula 1,000 times 0.0435, but I've divided by that 2. So it's essentially saying, you know, $43.50 divided by 2 gives me that $21.75. Another difference for the rate, since this is semi-annual, we need to take that rate, we need to divide that by 2 also. And one last thing, the number of periods, since this is twice a year we're getting this, and it's 5 years, we need to multiply 5 times 2, or to get 10 years. And again, our future value is always going to be 1,000. So again, to find the present value, I'm going to pull up the f of x, and under financial, we'll look for PV again. Let's go to present value. I'm going to hit OK. Same process. I'll go to rate. My current rate is 0.018%. The number of periods is 10 periods. The payment is the $21.75, and our future value is the $1,000. And we hit OK. If we look on page 218, we see it matches up that we have, not 218, we're looking at 216. If we look on that page, we have $1,034.04. So last thing I just want to point out with current yield. Current yield looks at the payment you receive in that time period divided by the price you actually paid for a bond. Oftentimes in papers, current yield is quoted as opposed to a yield to maturity. A yield to maturity is something that you would receive until, in this case, the bond would mature. But current yield, what we do is we simply take whatever payment we get. So example like this one, $43.50, divided by the price of $1033.77. That's where the current yield would be 4.21%. Okay. Now the last thing I want to do is give you an example of yield to maturity. So let me just type in yield to maturity here. And we'll do the example on page 220. So this is kind of, if you had bought this bond and held it till maturity, at the given market price you paid for it, what would be your rate of return as an investment? And we're going to use the rate function for this. So if I go to f of x, under financial, type in the letter R, should take us right to rate. I'm going to hit OK. And the example on page 220, it says the number of periods is 8 years. The present value, we put in a negative 925. That's what we would pay for the bond. Our future value, we said, would always be $1,000. And the payment would be the coupon rate that we actually receive and this one is assuming an annual interest rate, an annual payment. So we'll put in $50. It tells us that our yield to maturity or rate of return on this investment would be 0.0621%. So about 6.22%. So I'm going to hit OK. And a good thing to do in Excel is always make sure to push this out to about 4 decimal points. So there's where we get the 6.2182% or 6.22% rounded. And that ends our examples in Chapter 7 with finding the present value of a bond, the current yield, and the yield to maturity rate of return on a bond.